Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody, puts it up, scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is Thursday, game day, big game day. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition with me. Matt Taylor will join us later on. Cal Neddenriep. Plenty to talk about. Dustin mentioned something about a game tonight. There's some big game going on, I think. Yeah, Indiana Purdue basketball. There's something we'll be able to look at. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's 77. I've got my one last tea time set up down here in Florida before I head back to Georgia. So I'm doing good right now. How are you?
My last tea time set up in Florida before I head a few miles north to Georgia.
Hey, you know what? They've been getting snow back home. So I don't want to hear it.
They've been getting snow back home. I don't want to hear it. You don't know what snow is, man. You left the state of Indiana.
I did. Correct. And with no intent of returning when it's snowing.
And it's not
outside.
the snow. We're not getting tons of snow. It's just the freaking cold. I hate cold. I hate the cold. Hate it.
This is why I'm a 33-year-old snowbird.
30, and if it gets down into the upper 30s, 40s, no big deal. You go down below that, that sucks. Ross has got snow in 13. He's down there in southern Kentucky, I believe. Michael's with us.
The worst part is my least favorite was always the ice. I didn't care that much about the snow, but the ice, man, that'll get you.
Yes, it will. You don't have to worry about that in Florida. That's for sure.
Nope.
You won't have to worry about that tonight inside the Simon Scott Assembly Hall either. It will be pretty warm and toasty as Indiana welcomes, number 4 ranked Purdue Boilermakers and the number 1 ranked offense in the country against a defense that had been ranked pretty high but has slipped a little bit in these last few games. No question, these bigs, man, that's going to be the story tonight, Dustin. I mean, Zach Edey I keep calling him Yao Ming 2.0.
And that's been like the Achilles heel for Indiana in these past rivalry games against Purdue. I mean, we can also talk about the coaching because obviously that's been a big difference in the past too. But think about all the bigs that have hurt Indiana in the past: A.J. Hammonds, Matt Harms, Isaac Haas. Now you have Zach Edey and Travion Williams against Trace Jackson Davis. This is going to be a real big test for Indiana, especially in the post, I think. But, if Indiana can shoot the ball as well as they have at home, I mean, we've seen Purdue. They've not been able to defend at times. They had trouble defending Wisconsin. They struggled against Rutgers, even without Geo Baker on the floor. So while Purdue is really good and they can score the basketball, and I just broke my own rule. I hate when people say score the basketball, but this is a Purdue team that's shown some susceptibility. So if Indiana can hit some shots, they've got a really good shot to end that 9-game losing streak and not get it to double digits.
Yeah, the enormity of the win for Indiana. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but it would just carry over in a lot of different ways. It's just become this thing that shouldn't be there. But not only have they lost 9 straight to Purdue, yesterday I was talking to Rick Bozich. They play Michigan next. They've lost 8 straight to Michigan.
Wow.
So you're facing the next 2 teams you've lost 17 straight games to. And you just ended a road streak, a losing streak, which would be great. And I talked to Rick yesterday. I'm like, man, can you imagine if they were able to vanquish this streak and that Michigan streak in succession? What that would do? Wow. You talk about and the national narrative that would really propel Indiana because nobody cares about Indiana right now. That's why they're not ranked. They're still a tournament team at the moment. but they've got to do some things. I don't think you can get through the Big Ten Conference by beating Northwestern and Nebraska and hopefully Penn State when they come to Bloomington and those types and make it to the tournament. You're going to have to they beat Ohio State. They're going to have to, but that's not going to be they're going to have a few more wins like that because there are plenty more teams like that in the Big Ten that they're going to have to play.
Right. Well, and I don't know. I mean, there aren't many teams. What would you put? Michigan State, Purdue, and Illinois probably. And well, you probably throw Wisconsin in that category. In a category all by themselves.
And that's a team in Indiana had 22 points at the half.
Right.
Now that loss is going to hurt them so much, not because of the loss. The loss doesn't hurt them nearly as what the win would have helped them.
Right. And that's kind of what is the factor to me going into this game. Like, in my opinion, over the past 4 seasons, this game has meant more to Purdue than it has to Indiana, even when Purdue wasn't that good and they were able to win some of those games. Like, it was just evident to me that this game meant a lot more to Purdue than it did to Indiana. And that sounds dumb, but I just don't think Archie Miller put an emphasis on it. I think that's changed. I think that Mike Woodson is going to put an emphasis and has put an emphasis on this game. And the fact that you have an opportunity like this win means more to Indiana than a loss would mean to Purdue at this stage in the game. Purdue's got some quality wins. Indiana has, like you mentioned, the win over Ohio State. They've come close. They were close against Penn State on the road. They were close against Wisconsin on the road. What this would do for their psyche moving forward, to beat not just your rival and to end that losing streak, but then to beat a top 5 team in the country. It's not probably on the same level as it was like a decade ago now when they beat Kentucky on that Watt shot. But it's getting up to that caliber because you're talking about a team that the mentality just hasn't been there, right? I think I think more than talent, it's been a mentality thing. So if you're able to get over this hump, that might propel you forward to the rest of this Big Ten season. That doesn't mean they're going to win the conference, but if you can solidify your spot in the NCAA tournament after not making it for the last 5 years, 6 years, watch out. I think Indiana can beat some really good teams in the Big Ten moving forward if they're able to get this win tonight.
Yeah, and not only getting a win over Purdue, though, that would actually be bad for Purdue in the way of it's Mike Woodson's first time against Purdue. So that, to me, would set kind of a tone. We're like, oh, man, they got a new guy in there. First thing they do is beat Purdue. So I think it would be bigger for Purdue to lose this game than a lot of people think. Not as big as Indiana winning, without question. That's not even close. I agree with you there.
I disagree on that for one reason. If this was Mike Woodson taking over like a Tom Crean type team, then I would agree with you. But this is a group with veteran players. They've all been there. Quite frankly, they've gotten their butt kicked by Purdue the past 3-4 years. So to me, that's why I don't think, yes, it does set a tone. You're not wrong in that. I just don't think it's as bad for Purdue because this is a veteran team. They've got good players. They've improved their shooting. They got some guys through the transfer portal. So in that regard, I just think that this does more for Indiana than it does for Purdue. But having said that, this is a rivalry game. Matt Painter, I know, has put an emphasis on this specific game throughout his tenure in West Lafayette. So it's going to be fun. I mean, the records haven't mattered in the past. This is just going to be a really fun game. I'm glad it's not a 9 p.m. tip. Well, let's just say that because this is 13-4 and what, 15, 16-2 for Purdue. This is what you want. This is what the state of Indiana wants. They want these two teams to be at the top of the Big Ten playing their best basketball when they meet. And I think you can argue that if Indiana beats Penn State just a couple of days ago, I mean, look at where Indiana's sitting, even though you did have that that loss against Wisconsin, even though you let that slip away.
That one, it hurts just because of what it would have meant to the resume. That's the thing. Tim asked, where's my suit? Well, A, I'm not a student, and B, I'm not a fan. So I'll leave that up to the students. But I think that's going to be a cool thing tonight. The students are supposed to be suiting up, wearing the suit, big, all that talk about the suit. And I was talking about this yesterday. I'm like, why did Mike Woodson have to wear that damn suit coat at Nebraska? There was absolutely no reason he could have put all this stuff to bed, because you know you're going to win that game. You think you're going to win that game. You're wearing the MLK t-shirt anyway. So I'm like, I was thinking he's going to be in sweats for sure. Nope.
Right.
Had to wear the damn suit coat. So now that talk continues because they still haven't won a road game, not wearing a suit or whatever. So I'm like, oh, well. But I think it's a pretty cool thing tonight for the students, just to give them just to get them in this. There has not been an atmosphere like I think will be tonight at Assembly Hall since, say, the North Carolina game. And that's been like 5 years.
What, you think that long? I mean, I'm going to defer to you on that one because I haven't been there, but I mean, that's insane to me.
Well, not during the. I mean, you cannot count Bob Knight returning. That is an event unto itself. Hell, you could have not had a damn game and said Bob Knight's returning to Assembly Hall, and it would have been pretty damn big. So that doesn't count. But yeah, I absolutely. You've got to go back to when Indiana was competitive and knocking off top 5 teams, but that's back during the Crean era. So you haven't seen an environment here for a long time that is like it was for years and years and years. Now, does that mean Indiana wins? No. But that's the kind of environment they have to have every night to start. I mean, all it takes is you get that a big win like that over a Purdue team. Who the hell can't you beat? They're a national championship contender. They're a top 4 team. They're a number 1 seed right now. They are currently a number 1 seed. So if you can beat a number 1 seed, who the hell can't you beat? So the confidence would be just enormous, even though it's at home.
Right. And what a huge home court advantage it's going to be. I mean, I like I said, I'm going to defer to you on the best environment in 5 years, but there's no doubt that this is going to be a huge home court advantage for Indiana, one that they haven't seen in a while. I mean, you throw in the 2020-21 season when you didn't have any fans. This is a program that's hungry for a win. They're excited about their new head coach. They're playing well. Typically, when you have a new head coach, it usually takes some time, and you could make the argument that maybe Indiana isn't quite where they need to be because they've lost a few games they should have won: Syracuse, Penn State, Wisconsin. But at the same time, there's an excitement. They go into this game, the fans go into this game thinking they can win this game. And for the past 4 years, I felt like the energy and the mindset has been, how are we going to find a way to lose this game? And to me, that's not the mindset heading into tonight's game.
But yesterday we were talking about the line. Of course, it probably didn't come out yet, but now we're seeing a 3.5 point line. That sounds about right. Purdue. That means Las Vegas is expecting a close game, at least. We'll see how that turns out. Justin says Painter hasn't forgotten when he got thumped in West Lafayette by 30 back in 2013. Probably plays that game in the locker room every time they play IU. Yeah, so it's a rivalry. And let me say this. Yesterday, and we'll hear from Mike Woodson, as a matter of fact, I guarantee you, to the press, not playing the game up, he's playing it's the next game. In the locker room, I guarantee you that's BS. Right. Him, Dane Fife, I promise you. They're reminding guys, especially the ones from Indiana, what this game's about for them. We got plenty more to get to. Indiana Sports Beat. Dustin Schutte with me right now. We're back with more right after this. Brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant. I'm sorry about that, John. Don't forget, you can catch Indiana basketball there each Monday night at 7:05 with Don Fisher and Mike Woodson. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
Anything you just mentioned, Woody. Which Woody you want from Woody? Is there anything specific? Or is there a transcript?
How about Mike Woodson referencing himself in the third person again?
Was that on?
You can always go to the Hoosier. They have everything there. They have the clip and the
transcript. Okay, I'll take a look
transcript.
At that. And I'll try to have that ready for you by the.
But the question I asked him. The question I asked him was about was about how do you balance the rivalry and the game. And he said, "I'm selling the game, man." Well, I don't know what he means by that, but if they think they're not selling this rivalry, they're out of their mind. I promise you that they are. They have to. They have to start because it's not there. That's been part of the complaints that it's not there.
Yeah. Did you get my email yesterday with the tax document?
Yes, I did. I forwarded on. Thank you.
Perfect. I meant to ask you about that yesterday, but I forgot.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. We should have Matt Taylor, I think, this segment. He may show up late. He may not show up at all. I kind of figured you weren't too worried about it since it's kind of Indiana-Purdue day. But if he shows up, he'll show up. Woof, woof. Is that your dog, Dustin?
It is.
Good old Biscuit. Was there a player preview or was it just Mike Woodson yesterday?
Rob Fennessy.
Okay. I'll try to get something from him too.
He's from West Lafayette, you know.
That's right.
You'll find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Thursday. Dustin Schutte with me. Jim Coyle here from Indiana Sports Beat Radio as always. Purdue taking on Indiana tonight in Bloomington. You know, Zach Edey, the 7'4" monster for Purdue, is shooting 70% from the field.
Well, I mean, it's like a little tyke soup for him.
It is. And I've said this all week. I said, you can't block him out. You have to block him out of the damn paint.
Yeah.
You have to take him away from the play. You just can't let him make a play. And I don't know how you do that without drawing a lot of fouls, but I'm like, put Durr's ass on him and say, stick your butt in his midsection and just drive him, man. When that shot goes up, you have to drive him backwards. I don't care. Foul Durr out.
When you watch that Illinois game, I mean, there were times when, I mean, all he has to do is reach straight up, and it's not over the back. There's no foul call. He's just so big that he can reach his arms up there.
I've talked about that all week. There is no such thing as over the back, and he is so big that and also getting rebounds all over guys.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying it doesn't matter if you have position on him. That's irrelevant. You got to get him the hell out of there.
What's more impressive than his field goal percentage, because like I said, I mean, when you're that big and you're catching the ball on the lower block, you should be shooting a pretty high percentage. But to me, he's almost shooting 70% from the free throw line. Like that has to be up near the top of guys at 7 foot tall. That has to be near the top because typically they struggle from the free throw line, and he's a very consistent free throw shooter.
Yeah, that's crazy. Matt Taylor, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's up? How we doing?
Speaking of great free throw shooters.
Oh yeah, I could let it fly back in the day from the charity stripe.
Hey man, yesterday Don Fisher was on with us instead of on Mondays normally, but got to play your impersonation of him. He enjoyed that quite thoroughly.
Oh, brother. Oh, boy. How did that go?
It was great. He loved it. He did. Seriously. It was very, very good. There's not many people that can do Don Fisher, like I said. Very, very few. I've heard very few. What's going on with you, man? How you doing?
We're good. We're good. Just kind of rummaging through, the end of the season materials, kind of dissecting what Chris Ballard had to say last week regarding the Colts and his end of the season, state of the team, if you will, now that the season's over. And, you could just sort of sense and tell the heartbreak in his voice and his attitude. And, they're still going through, exit meetings with players and coaches and things like that before everybody disperses all over the country for the off season, before they all come back for OTAs in the spring. So everybody's still kind of, unfortunately, scratching their head and trying to figure out what went wrong the final 2 weeks of the season, try to make sense of it, try to make it to, something that it never happens again. But obviously right now it's, it's sort of, a really bad analogy. It's still sort of ground zero, and there's still smoke from the rubble. And I think it's going to take a while for everybody to kind of get over it and, sort of piece out what went wrong and make sure that it never happens again going forward, and make sure that you use it as a learning tool and a learning mechanism going forward.
Yeah. And gosh, the way that ended, it did. Everyone, we all knew that the playoffs were coming, and such a disappointing end, especially because how hard they fought to get over that 0-3 mark, to get past the loss to the Ravens and that loss to the Titans. They fought and they fought. Jonathan Taylor gutted out a great year, and we'll talk about the Louis Vuittons he gave out as well. I saw yesterday.
Yeah,
did you get one of those Louis Vuittons, man?
Unfortunately, I didn't make the cut, which I'm not sure why. I mean,
you're giving him all the pub, man. He's got to give you a Louis.
I'm telling you. No, but you're exactly right. I mean, we're all going to remember the last 2 games of the season, right? We're going to remember not getting off to a fast start against the Raiders, not being able to close that game out on the final drive when Derek Carr and Hunter Renfrow get that big play and they get into field goal range in the final moments. We're going to remember the Jacksonville game for all the wrong reasons, not being, not showing up, getting run off the field, ran out of the gym, whatever analogy you want to use. I mean, you lost to a team that is picking first overall in the draft on the last game of the season when all you needed to do was win. It was you had everything to lose. They had nothing to gain with the win. In fact, that they were going to hurt their draft stock potentially by winning that game, right? And they still beat the Colts by, 15 points. And so we're all going to remember how the season ended. But if you go back, as you said, and I think you're exactly right, Jim, if you go back and look at the entirety of the season, it's going to be categorized as the Colts' inability and their failure to close games out. It's not just about the last 2 games of the season. Their inability to make the playoffs stems way back before that, right? Not being able to close out the Rams, not being able to close out Tennessee when you're up by double figures. The last drive of the game against Tampa Bay, last drive of the game against the Raiders, the overtime loss against Baltimore. The inability for the Colts to close games out will be their legacy, at least in 2021. It's going to be a scar. It's going to be on everybody's resume. Frank Reich, Chris Ballard, all the players, they're going to have to deal with it. That's their legacy, at least for the next 8 months before they get back to training camp, and they're going to have to compartmentalize and deal with it mentally that, hey, we were 9-6 and had a 98% chance of making the playoffs after our big win on Christmas night against the Arizona Cardinals. Think about that, a 98% chance analytically to make the postseason with 2 games to go, and then just a collapse. So obviously the last 2 games are going to be highlighted and bolded. That's what everybody's going to remember. But had the Colts just taken care of business in one of those games that I talked about before the final 2 games of the season, they would have still gone on to make the playoffs.
Matt, we're in kind of way too early territory because we don't know what's going to happen with the offseason and what moves could be made or anything. But when you look ahead to what's coming up in terms of, free agency and the NFL draft, where do you think the Colts need to get better this offseason to maybe make a stronger push, get over that hump, and get back into the playoffs?
Yeah, it's, unfortunately, the loss to the Jaguars sort of accentuated, I should say, that their biggest needs are what they needed last offseason. And it's sort of Groundhog's year, Groundhog's offseason, right? They still don't have stability or a slam dunk answer at quarterback. Carson Wentz, with his play down the stretch of the season, left some uncertainty and some things to be desired at the quarterback position. Obviously, you're looking for long-term help at pass rush. I think they have two budding answers, if you will, in the long run. I think Kwity Paye and Dayo Odeyingbo can be guys that can flirt with getting you 10, 12 sacks a year, but they're not there yet. Both guys were rookies, and Odeyingbo was coming off an Achilles injury and didn't play until about the halfway point of the season. You need long-term answers at corner. You got some free agents there with TJ Carey and Xavier Rhodes. So are they going to be coming back? And if they do come back, what are you going to get out of them? Because both guys are sort of closer to the end of their careers than they are the beginning of it. Wide receiver, is T.Y. Hilton going to retire? And, can you compliment Michael Pittman Jr.? He had over 1,000 yards receiving this year, but nobody else, Dustin, on the team had more than 400 yards receiving. The Colts were the only team in the NFL that didn't have two receivers over 400 yards. So there's a big disparity in where they were going to go with the football when they did have to pass it, especially late in the season. You have all of these, left tackles, obviously something that is a concern because Eric Fisher had an up and down season. Again, there's a little bit of an asterisk by his year because he was coming off an Achilles injury, first year with a new team after all those years with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a free agent once again. So they have all of these premium positions that they need to fill, just like last year, but they're in a much more difficult position this year than last year because they don't have a first-round pick because of the Carson Wentz trade. So it's going to make it more challenging. They have a top 10 number in terms of cap space, but it's not like it has been in years past where they have the most cap space in the NFL by a wide margin. Like, those days are gone because now you're having to pay guys like Braden Smith and Darius Leonard and Nyheim Hines. You've drafted very well, but the catch-22 with drafting well is you have to re-sign those guys. They've outperformed their rookie contracts, and so you have to pay them more of a bigger chunk of the pie, if you will, and you're going to have to pay Quentin Nelson. And so it is going to be a really challenging offseason here for the Colts because they have premium positions of need. And without that first-round draft pick, it's going to be really, really tough to see, what they do to get markedly better at one of those positions. So, long story short, they need a lot of their guys on their roster to step up and take those next steps and to ascend even further, right? I'm talking about guys like Pittman's got to get better. Even though he's over 1,000 yards, they need him to be a superstar. They need Rock Yassin to be a shutdown corner, right? They need Kwity Paye next year to get 8-9 sacks. They need big jumps from internal options to take the burden off of all these premium positions of need when you don't have a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, and then the question of quarterback still never goes away. I mean, Carson Wentz looks like he will be returning, but we don't know how that situation will play out until next year arrives.
And Carson had some good moments, and he had some moments where he reverted to what got him into trouble last year in 2020, which led to his exodus with the Philadelphia Eagles. For the most part this year, he took good care of the football. He pushed the ball down the field, but the reality was the Colts in the last 8 games of the season became such a run-oriented offense, a run-first offense. Obviously, that you do that when you have an MVP candidate tailback in Jonathan Taylor. But just generally speaking, guys, this is football 101. When you run the ball, it should be easier to throw the ball. But that just wasn't the case. Play action wasn't there, and the Colts didn't win outside the numbers. The receivers didn't get open enough. And when they're one-on-one matchups, Carson Wentz wasn't accurate enough with the football, made some questionable decisions. And so what you like about Carson's season is that he made good decisions with the ball for the most part. I mean, he only had 7 interceptions, He was over 20 touchdowns. Those are good numbers. That's a good formula that you can win with. But the completion percentage has to be much better. He's at 62% completion percentage, which is bottom tier in the NFL this past season. So he's got to be much better at decision making, accuracy, and what Chris Ballard talked about after the season was over in his end of the season press conference. Just make the easy plays. Take what the defense gives you. The analogy that he used was make the layups. There's unfortunately a lot of times, especially in big games, where Carson struggled, where he's got checkdowns open or he's got underneath routes open, and he's trying to push the ball down the field and make a big play with a chunk play, and he's getting himself into trouble by either not completing passes or having passes picked off, or now you're in 3rd and long, things like that. So just take what defenses give you, a la Aaron Rodgers at times, a la Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, those offenses have more playmakers from top to bottom than the Colts offense, but I still think it makes sense for Carson Wentz to understand that he doesn't have to make every play like he did last year in Philadelphia, and that got him into trouble at times here with the Colts. And unfortunately, again, it hit the Colts the hardest in big games or in big moments of games, right? Like in the 4th quarter or in overtime.
Matt, there's no question that you'd rather be calling some football games right now, but when the season's over, I imagine that there's also a little bit of sweetness to it where you get to sit back, you're not having to work, and you just get to enjoy the NFL playoffs. I mean, what's this time of year like for you? I mean, I know you're still working it, and you still have some stuff to do with the organization, but
right.
Is there a little bittersweetness to it just from the fact that as a football fan you get to relax and you're not behind the microphone for some of these games?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I hated the way this season ended because I don't like talking about this stuff. I don't want to sit here for the next 8 months and talk about, quarterback uncertainty and, an epic collapse against the Jacksonville Jaguars and one of the worst losses in franchise history, in week 18. I don't want to do that. But to your point, generally speaking, two of my favorite days of the year are week 1, opening day of the regular season, right? Because you're so hyped and it's a new season and you haven't called a meaningful football game in 8 months. And then my second favorite day of the year, generally speaking, is the last day of the season, because that means you're done and the grind is over. And it does weigh on you a little bit. I mean, listen, not to get too over dramatic, but I mean, it's 7 days a week for 7 or 8 months. And listen, I'm not digging ditches, right? I'm not complaining whatsoever about it, but it is time consuming and you are pulled away from, your life, so to speak. The job does consume you. It becomes your life more or less, and you don't get to spend time with your family. You don't get to do things. And in normal years when we're traveling on weekends, that takes a toll on you a little bit. You're just kind of tired. You're just a little bit, mentally and physically drained and fatigued a little bit. So yeah, generally speaking, when the season's over, and more often than not, it's more of a happy ending than this ending. I mean, there's only one team that wins the Super Bowl, but you get what I'm saying. Like, if you make the playoffs and you go on a deep playoff run, you feel satisfied about that, if you will. But yeah, generally speaking, the last day of the season does, give you a little bit of a chance to take a deep breath, exhale a little bit, kind of get your ducks in a row, get your life back in order, and kind of plan some things that you've missed out on for the past 6-7 months.
Let's see. You already said you didn't get one of the Louis Vuitton bags from Jonathan Taylor. 2 bags. Those looks pretty sweet, man. Those over the shoulder bags, $3,000 bags.
That's
nice.
a good mortgage payment right there, Jim.
Telling you, boy, could have done a lot. Hey, Indiana, Purdue tonight, big game, man.
You going? You going?
Of course, man. I cover every game. I'm there for everything.
All right, fair enough. Like,
we'll be post-game show afterwards with Ted Kitchell and Dean Garrett afterwards. So
give me an X factor tonight. Like, what has to happen for Indiana to win this game?
Well, they got to do something with Zach Edey. I don't know what the hell I keep saying. You can't block him out. You have to block him out of the paint. You have to get rid of him. It's like having Kwity Paye coming at your quarterback. You can't just. You've got to do something different. You can't do what you normally do. So they're going to have to hit shots, not turn the ball over.
What about Jordan Geronimo? Like what kind of impact can he have in this game?
I don't know what he can do against Zach Edey because Zach Edey's 7'4". I mean, he's a foot taller.
But Geronimo can leap though. He's an athlete.
He did a great job on Luka Garza last year, who's 6'11".
Mm-hmm.
But Yao Ming too is still 5 inches taller than Luka Garza.
Yeah,
that's nuts to think about that.
It's going to be great. I mean, I know all of Indiana fans are just chomping at the bit because what's the number 9 straight, and there's been some really, really not good Indiana teams in that stretch, and obviously Purdue is recruited well, and they've really established an identity program-wise under Matt Painter in this time period. But I don't know. I mean, how many games against Purdue under Mike Woodson do you give? Like what grace period do you give him?
I don't think you need a grace period.
Is it next year? Is the year after that when it comes to Purdue?
Oh, it can't go that far. It won't go that far. I don't think he needs a grace period. He's recruiting. He's recruiting players that are going to change the program. Jalen Hood-Schifino, those kind of guys that are coming in, they're 5 stars that are legit players. It's going to change. The attitude is going to change. I think the coaching is changed. I don't know that he's going to need a grace period.
Not to sound jaded though, but I mean, I could care less about recruiting rankings because 5 star, 3 stars, 4 stars, it doesn't matter. Like,
it's all paper.
Can you play on the court? Can you assimilate? Do you have good basketball IQ? Can you build chemistry and rapport with your teammates? Because that, quite frankly, as far as I know, and you guys know more about the topic than I do, but when I watch IU basketball, talent is not the problem. It's basketball intelligence.
Yeah. I think if you want to direct
recruiting has not been the problem.
Yeah. He gets a 1-year grace period, but I think you got to win next year at some point. It's got to end. It just has to end. I don't care who you are. I mean, teams upset teams all the time that shouldn't. Miami goes into Cameron and beats Duke. That shouldn't happen. It just has to end. It's just ridiculous. But Purdue's got a good thing going right now. They've got Matt Painter's got.
They're a really fun and Purdue. And this is not that I want Indiana to be Purdue or Indiana to be Wisconsin or anybody else, but almost kind of you do, because those programs know who they are. They have an identity. They have a brand of how they want to play, how they want to win, and they recruit to that identity, so to speak. And Indiana, for the last 10 years, has had no idea who it is.
It's been a bad run. Hopefully that starts to change, brother. Cannot thank you enough. Looking forward to it. I'm sure you'll be watching the game tomorrow night, or it's tonight, isn't it?
I will be.
And
check your ticket stub there, Jim. Not sure what. You're getting in tomorrow.
The days all run together, brother. Trust me, I'll be there, and we'll be there for the post-game show. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, brother.
Enjoy it.
Thank you, Matt Taylor, the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here. We'll take a break. We got plenty more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with that and Dustin Schutte right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Sports on television.
I've got your question for Woodson loaded in, and the thing about Rob and how the tie into West Lafayette and that kind of stuff. It's like the very first question he was asked.
When's Kyle coming on?
I think he's 9:30.
Okay.
Always for Thursday times screw me up though, because I feel like they change a lot. Let me look and see what I have him written down for. No, he's supposed to be 9:10, but he's obviously not here yet. But I may text him and ask if he's going to come on and if he can do 9:30.
Excuse me. Well, when he comes on, you can drop me out.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get dressed and ready.
Here he is.
There he is. Cool.
See you in a bit, Dustin. Didn't
Hello,
mean to
Kyle.
prematurely cut him off, but
Hello, Jim.
We're all dressed in blue today. I think even Dustin was wearing blue.
I think he was too.
How have you been, man?
Good, you?
Good. I got these stupid envelopes in my car that have been sitting there for a couple of weeks with your address on it and a couple other people's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some more gift cards.
Oh, nice.
I'm terrible about getting that stuff out.
That's nice of you.
I'm just terrible about getting it out.
I figured out how my camera hadn't been working. It was switched off.
Oh, you had like a switch on it? Okay.
There's a thing on the top of the computer that I didn't even know existed. So there you go.
Wow, yeah.
I thought it just automatically came on.
That's how it is for mine. So I would
Is
have
it?
expected the same thing if I had the issue.
Yeah. I guess when I was probably putting my computer in my bag or something, it switched off at some point.
All right, here we go.
Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Thursday. Joined now by Cal Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Cal, how are you, sir?
Real good, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. Just getting through the holidays. How were your holidays?
Pretty good. It seems like it's been a while already, but yeah, it was good to get a little time off and, obviously have the holiday basketball tournaments, but, was able to see some of that and get away from it for a little bit and kind of get refreshed and focused here on we're basically a month away from the sectional draw, so it's already kind of closing in on us.
Yeah, it moves kind of quickly. All kinds of tournaments this year around the holidays you just mentioned. The Marion County tournament, probably one of the bigger ones. We talked about that. I also noticed that Carmel back up at number one in your top 15. That's kind of been a revolving door there at number one this year, huh?
Yeah, it really has been. It's been kind of all over the place. Westfield was up there for a while. Then Carmel I think this is probably their third turn at being a number one. And, it seems like nobody, even statewide, really wants to hang on to that top spot in 4A. So, ultimately that'll make for an interesting tournament, I think, and kind of to see who emerges. But, you got Chesterton, which is out of our area, but up in the region area that, having a really good season. They're undefeated. I've seen them play one time. Their overall schedule isn't as strong as some of the other teams that, when you look at Sagarin ratings and things like that. But, haven't seen them in person. They're really tough. They're a good team and have a guard, Travis Grayson, a senior, who's having an excellent season. So, that's another team to watch. Obviously Homestead's been kind of going through a little bit of a tough time here, but, I think they'll be a team. They'll be in the regional, I think, and depending on what happens with them and Snyder. Snyder just beat them, but one of those two teams will be in the regional. So you have other teams outside the area in 4A, but really Central Indiana in 4A is just it's wide. I don't want to say it's wide open, but the teams that are at the top, there's a lot of them, and they're all capable of knocking each other off. So that'll make for an interesting sectional. And haven't seen North Central. And then Ben Davis, I thought last week was about as good as any team I've seen. And then they blow a 20-point lead in the championship of the Marion County, and then lose last night or 2 nights ago to Decatur Central. So, that was an upset. So it's been so many ups and downs so far this season. It just kind of it's hard to project and even put these rankings together because it really, doesn't jibe with most years where you kind of have a pretty good idea of who's at the top.
Kyle, I've noticed at least to my vantage point, all across sports. It doesn't matter if we're talking about college basketball, college football, and college football, to me, it was very noticeable. But after, it's like the post-COVID has really jumbled that we don't know who, either we don't know who's good or no one is just really that good that they're dominant and standing out, because normally there is, if you're college basketball, you've got 2 or 3 dominant teams, and you can say, yeah, well, Baylor and Gonzaga, but Gonzaga's already lost twice. I think they lost at home. Baylor lost at home, bought back-to-back games. Purdue lost to Rutgers. So it's not as, the ACC has one team that's ranked. It's just a weird post-COVID deal, and I think that's carried over, because I look at the high school game, I'm like, well, Carmel's good, of course, but they're always good. They should be. They've got the most students, but it's such a turnstile right now. There is that dominant team, even in football, where 4A is different, but that dominance has not been as prevalent as it has normally been, I think.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely the case. COVID probably has something to do with that. I would think, and depending
has
on,
it equalized the playing field, maybe.
Well, you're going to have players out sometimes, so I think that that's part of it too. Is that in one of Carmel's losses I covered, they had 2 starters out, so in that particular case. But you're also missing sometimes kids for practices, and you have them kind of coming and going again right now. That's kind of the winter we're living in now. Is that that we're kind of back to that. We're back to having crowds and no restrictions and things like that. We're also back to having people out with contact tracing and COVID, and I know my own son, his lunch table, everybody's gone except for him. So they kids who are even vaccinated who are out with COVID. So it's just kind of, that's where that's kind of where we're at again. But it's just I would say, when I look at basketball, though, in 4A, I still think Carmel's probably the team to beat. I think, with Pete Suter and Charlie Williams and, Josh Wack and some of the guys who played key roles on that team last year, just Sam Orm. I mean, they're another really good player, shooter. They are probably the best team, I would say. The only question about them, I think, is which has been a problem for them, is their ball handling at times. That, Connor Goya, their point guard last year, graduated, and I think they probably miss him more than maybe people would have thought. But I don't know. That sectional is going to be super good this year with Westfield. Zionsville lost Logan Imes to an ankle injury. He'll be out for a little bit. But you've got Fishers, Jalen Harrelson, the talented freshman, and a lot of good seniors on that team too. And HSC's coming off a good win. So there's a lot of really talented teams in that sectional. So that may be the best of, the sectionals this year, even better than sectional 10, which is normally the toughest. But, it'll be, I think still probably Carmel is going to be the favorite, but some teams that can knock them off on a given night.
Who's surprising you up and down this year that you thought more of, and who's surprising you?
From negative aspect or positive?
Both directions.
I'd say Cathedral's been kind of up and down. I would say that's been a team that I would say I expected to be higher up consistently, and they have been at times. They've been, I think they're 10-4 right now. They have the city tournament going on right now, and they'll be, they're the top seed and probably the favorite to win it. Although Tech, I think, will give them a challenge if they meet in the finals. Tech already beat them once, so I think they're probably, you look at their talent, and they were only number 9 this week in the Fab 15. I had them at number 2, going into the season, but for whatever reason, in some of these bigger games, they've struggled a little bit, and maybe haven't played together as a group as well as I thought maybe they could. So, I still think, when you look at sectional 10, it's going to be, now you put North Central in that possible driver's seat as well after what they did in the Marion County tournament. But, I still think they're going to be one of the best teams in there, along with Tech, along with, Lawrence and North is capable of getting it going. Warren Central's, they were out with COVID last week for the county, wasn't even able to play. But, there's still some teams that could win that. I still think Cathedral might be the most talented team of all. So, that's a team that I think I expected just to be better on the whole as far as consistently. They're 10-4. It's not like they're having a terrible season, but, just from their talent standpoint. I think on the, maybe on the positive side of surprise, I would probably say North Central would be in that mix. In they first-year coach, Jason Gardner left to go to Arizona, his alma mater, in the summer. You bring in Kevin Gant, who is he played with Eric Gordon at North Central during that time span, and they've really done a nice job. They had even for a COVID and a neutral site game on Saturday, had a pretty good crowd there at Southport. They're on the south side of town, and they're at school that really, their basketball tradition is really strong, and when they're going good, they draw a lot of fans, and alums come out and support them. Probably one of the more better schools in our area that way, as far as kind of school pride and that sort of thing. So I kind of saw that on Saturday and last week, Friday and Saturday. Starting to become the case again. They have a couple assistants on their staff, Damon Ellison and Devontae Smith-Rivera, who are, former North Central players. And, so you they're kind of connecting the ties back to their past again and winning like they used to. And so I think that's, Joey Brown's a really good player, a junior on that team, but they have some other good pieces as well. And, Mason Lewis came off the bench, sophomore guard, had 21 points in that win over Ben Davis on Saturday. When they came from 20 points behind to win. So I think they've been a little bit of a surprise. I had them third in the Fab 15 this week, and that's probably higher than I would have expected them to be at this point in the season. But there's always that Marion County hangover, too, when you play 4 games in a week. I think Ben Davis had it happen to them on Tuesday, and we'll see if North Central can they play Lawrence North on Friday, which will be a tough game. So we'll see if they can rise up to the challenge again.
Yeah, and like I said, I know COVID has hit some games, but it hasn't seemed like it has really held too many teams back. Are there any teams that are being affected more than others?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, Warren Central had to miss the whole Marion County, which that was the only one of the 16 that had to miss. But still, they probably would have been one of the top 4 teams in there, I would say, and they potentially could have, made the semifinals. So that was unfortunate, and probably one of the more serious cases as far as missing games go was them last week. But there have been a handful. You see them here and there, and then there had to be a city game rescheduled this week for last night because of some kids coming back. So there has been some shuffling around of games, and, or there's, like in the Carmel's case of a game I covered a couple weeks ago, they had a couple kids out, a couple starters out, who were able to come back. Like it would have been a couple days later, they would have been able to play. So, there's been some situations that way. It's just real, I think we kind of got used to now. It's just kind of a, more of a fluid situation, and it's almost not even, I hate to say this, but it's like not even almost newsworthy because it's just so commonplace that you're going to have kids out here and there, or teams shutting down here and there. And, I remember back when this first started, it was like, we were reporting on every, if you shut down for a missed practice and stuff like that, and I was kind of like, well, how are we going to do this every time that happens? And it's just, you just can't. I mean, it becomes almost just commonplace. So, but it hasn't been widespread as far as teams shutting down. So that's been, a good thing, I guess, but you just never know. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen for a sectional game or, something like that. And I think, according to the projections and things, I think we'll be in a little bit better place by then, hopefully. So we'll get through January, and then hopefully things will look better by the end of February.
Absolutely, man. And hopefully you're able to stay out of harm's way as well along the way, because you're out there in the trenches, so to speak, all the time with all those kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's back to wearing masks out there, when I'm not, sometimes you're able to sit by yourself or whatever, and I won't wear a mask, but if I am, I'm trying to always wear a mask and, do the right thing and just, kind of what you got to do. I wasn't there for quite a while, like a lot of people were, but now I think, and I've got family I got to look out for, and my mom and everything. So it's just trying to do the right thing and be careful as you can be.
Well, brother, I hope you stay at it and keep doing it. High school basketball about to hit the fun stages as we're a month away from sectional draw. Like Kyle said, teams have to start kicking it up. Teams like Lawrence North, who coming off of state finals run last year, and they've kind of been falling off. They've got CJ Gunn and then a lot of characters with him, but how are they looking? Are they quite strong enough? I know they're not quite where they were last year.
I mean, they're kind of where I thought they would be, especially with Gunn coming off the injury and him. I think he's only played 4 games to this point. And they had a really, Ben Davis whooped them last Tuesday in the first round of the county. And so they've been off since then. And I know Jack Kiefer wasn't real happy with that game. I think they lost by 29. So that was kind of an eye opener. They come back this week. They play tomorrow against North Central, which will be a tough game. So curious to see how that game goes and how they respond to that challenge against a really good team. So, they're 7-4. They're probably I thought they'd be a little bit stronger, but that was based on, not knowing before the year with Gunn, having to miss some time. So,
I'll tell you that game back, his first game back, he was fire. And I can't believe that I was on hand for the one and only time in Jack Kiefer's 150-year coaching career that he was tossed out of a game.
Yeah, I still have a hard time believing that fact, but I'm gonna believe it, I guess. So it's
that was the first time he got tossed.
Yeah,
I am too, because let me tell you, he was at midcourt.
Yeah,
in that game when he got tossed, for his second technical, he was all the way out to near the center line and trying to talk, and it was kind of funny. But
I'll probably covered in my time, gosh, I don't know, 100 Kiefer games, and I've seen him get teed up before. He said he's pretty good about, once he gets one, he knows to shut up. And honestly, he does. He sits now a lot of the game, and he doesn't get too demonstrative. But I've definitely seen him get teed up before. So I mean, that's really amazing, if that's accurate. And I have no reason to believe it's not, but I'm just surprised that it hasn't happened before.
Well, let me tell you, I will always know who has the record for technicals in a game. Head coach, my old high school, Floyd Central, Joe Hinton. Remember Joe? He was great coach. Man, he's still around, but he was a Bobby Knight-esque on the floor. 5 technical fouls in a game. 5. You only get 2, ladies and gentlemen. He got 5. Love it. Brother, have a great day and a great rest of your week.
All right, Jim. I appreciate you having me on.
Will you have a chance to watch the game tonight, Indiana Purdue?
Yeah, I'm hoping to. Well, I'll probably be listening to some of it. What time's that start? 8?
That's a 7:00 game.
7. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably in transit and probably listen and then following along on Twitter.
Well, we'll keep informed, brother. Have a great one. Look forward to doing this again next week.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
The great Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow and keep up with everything high school sports that way. We got more coming up. IU Purdue is tonight. We'll be back with more. Brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty, Cheryl Sizemore. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl's 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference in you getting the home you want or not. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market for
So, Dustin, this will be your last segment, you said?
Last segment.
So quick.
Do we have anybody else coming on then?
No, that was kind of what I was about to go over. If Chris doesn't show up, would you mind staying until Dustin until like 9:55 or 10?
I'm trying to
go to break.
I didn't know he was leaving. That's all right. I'm trying to see if I can.
You don't have to. I don't know. What did you say? Did you say
Who are you
something?
talking
You.
to?
Because what I'm planning on doing is because normally the break or the next segment would go until 9:50. And what I'm planning on doing is waiting until either Chris shows up, and if he doesn't, just take the segment to like 9:55 or 10 unless you really got to go.
Yeah. I could probably do 9:50.
Okay, that's fine. We will show you out then.
Sounds good.
Trying to get Alec to come on.
Yeah, tell him he could do either 9:50 or 10:10. Or even ask Keegan. Keegan actually, I think, might be available.
There you go.
Especially since, I know it doesn't really hurt to have Alec on twice or 2 segments, one today and one tomorrow, but
Not at all.
Especially with tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah.
all right, here we go.
Housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coy, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. Thursday, game day, Indiana, Purdue tonight. The fans are really jacked up about this one, Dustin. And I understand Indiana's lost 9 straight. Actually, not just 9 straight.
With 13 of 14.
Yes.
So it's been a pretty dominant run by Purdue. Here's the question I would have for you, Jim.
And that was after they won 5 straight. This has been a series of streaks over since let's see. It's always kind of been a series of streaks. I mean, you go back. Here's the funny thing is Purdue is the only team in the Big Ten that has a winning record over Indiana. And I went back a long time ago and did some research, and I forget, and I'd have to go back and do it again. But there is a time around 1930 that if you started there and went forward, Indiana has a winning record against Purdue.
Right.
That head start they got came in the beginning. Hell, they won the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in the series that started in 1901. Hell, they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Indiana only won 5 out of the first 30 games. So they're virtually their entire lead in the series is from the turn of the century. They don't want to hear that. But now this 9-game losing streak does not bode well for that argument.
Right.
So it's got.
I'm guessing.
Indiana should never, ever, ever have a 9-game losing streak to anybody in the world. Anyone. I don't care if it's your rival or not. You should never lose 9 games to anyone. Damn, and you shouldn't lose 8 games to anyone. You should not have 2 games on your schedule that are back-to-back where you've lost 17 straight games. Indiana is a premier program, and I know that they've been down. They've made massive coaching screw-ups, hires.
Yeah.
Well, they have, one after another. And that's the sad part is people that don't know dick about sports have really screwed that whole program up. When you start forcing people to hire a guy like Kelvin Sampson, who was a great coach, but the president wasn't telling him to hire him because he was a great coach, that wasn't the reason. And he turns around and does what he had already got caught doing and puts Indiana in even a more precarious situation. You were already in a precarious situation. You lose a legend that very, very, very few programs ever get in a lifetime, in a program history. You've got to replace that. Not only do you not replace that or even come close, you continue to screw up afterwards. And then you start making major mistakes by bringing in a Kelvin Sampson to a program that it was clean as forever. Then all the fallout from that. Tom Crean was a good hire, actually, but he was kept too long. Fred Glass kept, instead of moving on and moving up, they gave him a new contract and lost all that money, then turn around and you made the worst hire in the history of IU athletics with Archie Miller. And then now here we are. Now you got Mike Woodson that's got to clean this up. And it is a mess because the recruiting has changed in this state. That there's only one reason that Trey Kaufman is in Lafayette and not Bloomington. Purdue doesn't get kids from the Southern Indiana. But now they've got one that's redshirting. They're so damn loaded that he's redshirting. He would be playing for Indiana right now. I'm a little surprised Logan Duncombe has not played more. I'm going to be honest with you. I saw someone early say you might see him more tonight. Why? If you haven't seen him all year, why in the hell do you think you're going to see him in the biggest game of the season playing against the best front court in college basketball? Now, the only reason you would is if Durr does foul out trying to keep Yao Ming out of the blocks. But Michael Durr, see, that's the thing that scares me about Indiana. Race and Trace, awesome. But Michael Durr has not shown anything. He hasn't had I don't know what he can do to offer to help Indiana win this game tonight, other than what I said, just stick a butt on Yao Ming and get him out of there. I would hack a shack the heck out of him, but you said he's a 70% free throw shooter, so that doesn't do a lot.
Well, to me, doesn't the thing to me is that this game comes down to doing the little things correctly, and people probably don't want to hear that, given the circumstances of what you've seen the last 4 years, because so much has gone wrong, especially in the shooting department. But I just think that when you look at the way Indiana used to win games, they always used to have a guy or two who would be willing to do whatever it took, right? Dive on the floor, get that loose ball. I think Race Thompson is kind of that player for them. But you have to have, in this kind of game, you have to have all 5 guys willing to make those little things happen, and not be scared of getting a foul, because you're going to foul in this game. Not be scared of committing a turnover. And I think we saw a lot of times under Archie Miller, this with the short leashes, people were at times afraid to make a mistake. You can't be afraid to make a mistake in this kind of game, because Purdue's going to make you pay. So I think that, to me, it comes down to, again, I've talked about it multiple times, mentality, right? And I think they do. I think this team does have a different mindset. It just takes a little time to get over that, because of 4 years. I mean, we saw that quote from Mike Woodson come out the other day, and I know you have a clip from him, but basically, when it came to Rob Finnessy, he says he's got to realize that he's playing for me now, and I love that kid. And that just kind of shows you what the mentality was like under the previous coaching staff, under Archie Miller, as opposed to what it is right now. So I think that there's a lot of, I think the talent's there. I think the recruiting's been there. You and I are going to disagree on that apparently till we go to the grave. I don't think recruiting was a problem. I think development was a problem. I think mindset was a problem. And now these kids are starting to get there, but it takes time. It's not going to be after 4 years of what happened. It's not going to change at the snap of your fingers. But I do expect to see a more focused team, a team that's more willing to do the little things. And like I said, because Mike Woodson played in this game, because Dane Fife played in this game, and they understand the importance of what it means to Indiana, I think that you're going to see a team that doesn't mean they're going to win, but I think it shows that there's an emphasis on winning this game and what it means to the state, regardless of who wins, Purdue or Indiana. This is a big game for both sides.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's obviously much bigger for Indiana, and that has never been the case prior to this streak. It has never been bigger for Indiana because they didn't need it to be, because they have 5 national championship banners hanging. They had equal Big Ten titles as Purdue. Now they're 2 behind right now. But still, they've got 22 Big Ten titles, 5 national championships. Purdue has never been a player on the national stage. You've got 2 Final Fours in the history of their entire program. So they're just not a player on the national stage. And the big brother, little brother thing it wears on you. I can imagine.
It's like Michigan State, right? In football.
Well, especially when you're like, well, we got the winning record over you. Like, so who cares? The truth is that's because you won, 25 out of the first damn 30 games back in the turn of the century when no one's grandparents were even born. So no one cares. Those 5 national championships, that's what matters. Even though the one is a little dusty, doesn't matter.
Well,
it's still a national championship. The only reason there's not more up there is because of the crappy hires that have happened.
Okay, I mean that's the case for every program can say that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this
terrible
is a different
argument.
No, it's not, because
played better and won more games, they would have more national championships. Yes, I agree.
I'm talking about this is a program that's already on that track, that's already there, that continues to do, that's in a state that produces the talent that you don't even have to leave for half of your roster for. You could fill half of your roster with kids from home. Most schools can't do that and compete at the national level. Indiana can. Purdue is right now. I don't think that Purdue is a national championship caliber team. But
this year?
Yep. But they're going to be a number 1 seed.
I think that they are offensively, but unless they figure some stuff, they looked better defensively against Illinois, but unless they figure something out on that side where they can consistently defend, I don't think they can compete with the likes of Gonzaga, Baylor, Duke, Kansas, some of those other teams that are up towards the top. I don't think they can compete with them. Even Illinois in the long run. I think Illinois their depth is about the same. I think their defense is better. I don't know. The way they defended against Wisconsin was eye-opening bad. And I don't know really, to be honest, like last year, we talked about the Big Ten having 4 or 5 teams that we thought could compete for a national championship. There may not be one this year. Like I said, I think Wisconsin plays a different style. And
Wisconsin right now to me I hate to say this, or just because I know it sounds silly, Wisconsin to me may be the Big Ten's best chance at this moment because of their unbelievably consistent style of play.
Yeah.
And the fact they don't make mistakes. I mean, not to say that they're perfect. They do. But generally, consistently, they make less mistakes than everybody else. And that wins games, man. And you just talked about their experience. My God, last year they were older than the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Don't know what the situation is this year.
And look at, Johnny Davis. They have a player who can fill it up at any time. You have Brad Davison, who's, I know people don't like him, but he's an experienced guy. He's the glue guy. He's the guy that gets that team together. So they've got all the pieces. It's a matter of whether their style, but they're a better offensive team than I think they've ever been under Greg Gard. I have to go back and look at some of the numbers, but typically, Wisconsin, and they usually play at the style of Virginia, right? Where they're a boring team to watch. Typically, they get the job done defensively, and then they hope to hold you to under 45 points, and they're going to get out of there with a win. That's not the case this year. Yes, they can beat you defensively, but at the same time, they've got a guy who can fill it up. I think he went for, I mean, he can go for 30 points on any given night. So I like Wisconsin. I do think Wisconsin, Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois are in that category. I just think that they all have some flaws. And excuse me, when you look at teams like Auburn, Auburn's playing at a really high level right now. When you look at Gonzaga, when you look at Baylor, I just don't know if the Big Ten has the same kind of speed and shooting ability that these other teams have. I mean, we saw it in the tournament last year when these teams that we thought were really good got into the tournament, they got waxed. And I don't think the Big Ten is nearly as good this year as it was last year.
I agree. It's not as good at the top, but I think it's a little deeper. But I agree that it's not as good. Miro Little, the Finnish guard, is coming to visit tonight for Indiana, so they're going to have another reason to play well. Remember the 2023 Helsinki Basketball Academy guard. This is his third visit. He was at Baylor on the 15th and 16th. He was at Villanova the 18th through the 19th, and he'll be here the 20th and the 21st, which is today and tomorrow. So he is going to undoubtedly get to see an environment, I promise you, he has not seen on his other two visits, without question. And that's a big sell. That is a big selling point because this environment is how it used to always be. And I think it can get back to that. And with guys like Miro Little. Indiana was the first program to offer him a scholarship. His relationship with the IU staff grows. Says he has, I have a good feeling about the people and programs since first meeting. I'm just humbled to have these great programs. I have pleasure to visit. Very excited. Indiana assistant coach Dane Fife, of course, flew over there to visit him. He's already made one visit over there. Little said it's great. Dane Fife feels that we have a great connection. He's really cool. Yada, yada. So, but 6'4" guard, quick and athletic. During his 16 and under FIBA European Championship last year, he averaged about 10 points and 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 38% on threes. His best game was a 23-point outing against Hungary. I love those international guards, though. They're just shooters, man. International guys just shoot. They're great shooters. So there's another reason for Indiana to play better tonight. So you can go to thehoosier.com and there's some highlights there that Alec Lasley has and a story as well for that. But we got to take a quick break. We got lots more coming up talking about Indiana Purdue tonight as they'll be putting it on at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, 7 o'clock. We're back with more. Dustin, are you leaving?
I'm out.
All right. Well, I better say bye to my buddy Dustin. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Look forward to doing this again next week.
And I'll be here for the full 2 hours and enjoy the game tonight. Stay safe.
You too, buddy. We'll talk to you later. And we're back with more on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. If you need that championship smile, go see my good friend Dr. J in Sellersburg. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Whether it's a celebration.
Morning, Chris. Oh, you're muted, Chris. Or something. You're not showing that you're muted, but I don't hear you. If you need to get off and rejoin, if there's something you can mess with, that's totally fine.
Or have him go into the settings.
Yeah, check your StreamYard settings. Go down to the little gear where it says Cam and Mic. And then there's an audio tab that you can click on after that. And then there should be a few different options underneath your mic. And just test them until you see it working. So you see the green show up.
2, 1.
There it is. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes that stuff, you're not the first person that's happened to. You doing all right this morning, Chris?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I mean, Pacers get a win last night, beat the Lakers. I mean,
Man, thank you for getting up. You didn't have to do that.
well, I was wrestling around. My wife is going out to cut hair, and then Bailey, the dog, needed to go outside. So it's like, okay, I'm up.
Is that what she does?
Yeah, my wife's a hairstylist. Yep.
I should have her cut my hair. I don't have one. I should have her cut mine. I've been letting it grow this is the longest my hair has been in. I don't even know which way I'm supposed to. I can't tell because I always do it backwards when I look at it in the camera. But this is as long as my hair has been, and since I was in my 20s, I think.
Yeah, let's see. I'm 60 years old. She has cut my hair since I was 19 or 20. I mean, she's cut my hair for.
Hey, Chris, you're still kind of choppy. You sound fine whenever it's not choppy. Would you mind just rejoining and seeing if that fixes it?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Copy.
There we go. Wish we had more time to let him figure it out, but we're coming back in. Hopefully he sounds fine when he comes back.
Passport. Also 0% APR financing over 48 months. And
All right, I'm back. Is that any better?
Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda.
1 2 1 2.
You're good.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Thursday, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, joined now by our good friend Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers, and they are coming off a big win over the Los Angeles Lakers. Anytime you beat the Lakers, it's a big win, especially for the Pacers right now. So, Chris, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Too bad I don't get to talk to Dustin. I see he had to go on this Thursday. I'm sure he'd want to talk a lot about it. But, yeah, it was a good win. When you've lost 4 straight and 8 straight on the road, you have not won a road game since November 22nd when you beat a really good Bulls team in Chicago by 32. Yeah, last night was especially an enjoyable telecast. I mean, I think many people know we don't travel, so we do the game in the studio. So it is a 10:30 start last night. So by the time I think I got home, it was 2 o'clock or 2:15 or whatever. But yeah, you got to give them a lot of credit because this win has also generated a lot of national talk because I think if you followed yesterday, Frank Vogel, the former Pacers coach, there's a lot of questions if he is going to remain as the Lakers coach because they have underachieved this year. They're 22-23 now. I think this is the longest that LeBron James has gone into a season where he's been under 500 since very early in his career, when maybe during his rookie year when he was in Cleveland. They benched Russell Westbrook at the end of the game last night. So, the Pacers are going to play a role in whatever may happen for the Lakers coming up. But great win last night. Karis LeVert had 22 points in the fourth quarter. That's a Pacers franchise record. He ended up with 30. Domantas Sabonis had another triple-double. So all in all, it was a really solid performance by the Pacers last night in LA.
Yeah, and they started this road swing against the Clippers, and that was just a 5-point loss. So they were battling from the start, and then to get that next win, it's huge because they stay on this West Coast swing. You've got the Warriors coming up, the Suns coming up, then you go to New Orleans before you come back home. So good start to that swing. I mean, even the first loss was a battle, and to get this win looks good right now.
Yeah, and especially, what they've done in the last 2 fourth quarters, that's been a real problem for the Pacers much of the year, their inability to close. Last night was the 25th game, Jim, that they've played in what's considered clutch time, and clutch is plus or minus 5 points with 5 minutes to play. Before last night, they were 4-20. So they've now played 25 of their 45 games in clutch time. So it's a hard thing when your team is 16-29. That tells you you're not a very good basketball team because of your record, but you've played better basketball than your record shows for it. So it was really good to see them be able to close things out last night against a Lakers team. I think that was their 25th or 26th time in clutch time. They've been a team that's played a lot of close games too. So fourth quarter was big. They had 35 points. Monday against the Clippers, they had scored 43 points in the fourth quarter, which was a season high. Wasn't enough to win the game, but you saw better play down the stretch. And to be able to do that, I think, for where they are in back-to-back games last night was very important.
Yeah, as you look down the stats, the Pacers led in every category against the Lakers last night, and they out-rebounded them on the road, which that's always huge because any extra possession is extra possession. Points in the paint, they destroyed them 62-46. I mean, the Lakers just don't have a paint game, it looks like.
No, they really struggle. I mean, when they take LeBron James off the floor, this team really struggles, and they are an old team. I mean, you've got Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Westbrook, James. I mean, it's the oldest team in the NBA. They've got 4 of the 11 active players that were named to the all 75th anniversary team. You've got Westbrook. You've got those guys. So they're very talented, but they're also very old. And so that's going to be interesting to see how this plays out the rest of the way. They're also missing Anthony Davis, the former Kentucky star, who's been out for some time with an MCL sprain. So there are going to be a lot of questions about the Lakers moving forward. But I think, for the Pacers, it was just an important win to sort of just move forward. There's so much happening right now. You've got the trade deadline coming up in a month. There's all kinds of speculation and noise out there. I think for this group who's battled hard, they just haven't gotten the wins. It was important to get a win last night and to at least take a step forward on this road trip. They've got Golden State tonight, so that's the second night of a back-to-back. I will be like every other Pacers fan tonight. I'll be in my basement watching the game on TNT. This is the only game all year that we do not televise. So it will be very strange for me, to be down in my basement, not calling the game, but just watching the game. And I've said this, Jim, that this is a great night of basketball. You've got IU Purdue at 7 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock, you have the Pacers and Golden State.
Well, it's going to be you should have a watch party over. Should have been a watch party over at the Denari's, popcorn everywhere.
I think it's one of those. I think it's just. I just want to sort of. Yeah, I know. I want to just chill out.
Yeah, trust me. I can only imagine. That is the absolute last thing that I or you or anyone like that would want to do. I guarantee it's like, leave me alone. I want to be in a room by myself watching these games, and that's it.
But the good thing is my wife for Christmas I have a brand new television down in the basement. I have a 70-inch. And so I've been using that to watch the NFL playoffs and all those kinds of things. So I'm looking forward to just, you're right. I may pop some popcorn and on a Thursday night. I don't have a game until Saturday. So maybe get a favorite beverage and just enjoy the night of watching a great rivalry game in college basketball and then watch the Pacers and the Warriors on at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Let's see, what was I going to put up there? Karis LeVert, what a night for him. 30 points in only 27 minutes.
Yeah, he was in foul trouble a great portion of this game. He picked up his 4th foul about a minute into the third quarter, and Rick Carlisle had to put him on the bench. And he brought him back late in the third, but he had 22 in the fourth, and he hit 3 big threes. He hit the 3 that gave the Pacers the lead for good. And was really good to see. I mean, he's a guy, Jim, that over the course of the last 12 or 13 games that he's played, he's had 8 or 9 20-point games, and he's really played at a high level. He missed 5 games due to health and safety protocol, but he's put together a solid month of play, and it's been really good.
Tim said, Chris, you married your hairstylist. He's got a girl that he went to high school with, still cuts his hair since he was 17, but he didn't marry her.
Well, yeah, my wife, we are high school sweethearts, and she went to beauty school, as they call it, or hairstyling school, when she was 19 or 20 years old. And so when she was practicing, I was the guinea pig, if you will. And nobody has cut my hair other than her in 40 years. We timed our kids. It worked out perfectly. She would cut my hair maybe right before we had one of our boys. So, it all worked out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That is just great. I wish you were closer. She'd be cutting my hair, I promise you, because I've cut it the last 2 times.
How do you do
Yeah,
that?
looking for it. Well, because
Yeah.
I'm not cutting this part. I'm just trimming it. Just
Okay.
the stuff on the sides. Trust me. And even that does not go well. Trust me, even that does not go well. And like sometimes I've tried to do this just like around here, and I'm like, oh boy, that looks like a chunk. That probably was not good. So, hey, tonight's game, I'm sure you'll be watching in the Indiana Purdue. Like you said, you'll get to watch that. It's beforehand. What are you expecting in that game?
But it's been one of those. It's been a series that's been dominated by Purdue, and they've had a lot of success down in Bloomington. I've got to believe that Mike Woodson is going to have the Hoosiers fired up. I mean, it's one of those games I'm going to enjoy because I have friends on both sides. I've known Thad Matta for a long, long time. He played at Butler. He coached at Butler. I worked with Thad. He's now, of course, on the athletic staff at IU. I really respect Matt Painter. Terry Johnson, one of his assistants, was a longtime Butler assistant, made the move from Ohio State with Chris Holtman. Both SID staffs are great. I know everybody, pretty well. So I just sort of sit there and watch and enjoy the game. Hopefully it's a great game. The atmosphere is going to be great down in Bloomington. So I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be a great night.
Yeah, it's. I think this is going to be the biggest environment they've had in 5+ years. So looking forward to it. Buddy.
Yeah, what did I see? I saw that if you combine the two teams' records, it's the best combined records between a Purdue and Indiana team in a matchup in a long time. So
that's something I haven't seen. I'm gonna have to pull that up. But Indiana's lost 9 straight.
I don't know what the date. I don't know how
number.
far it goes back. But if you look at IU's record, Purdue's lost a couple of times. IU hasn't. They've lost 3 times or whatever. It's 2 solid basketball teams, and this is an important game in the Big Ten race.
Absolutely. Purdue coming off of a big win over Illinois to keep them in the Big Ten race. Otherwise, they would have almost been eliminated. Well, brother, have a great night enjoying your night off, a rare night off. Enjoy that. I hope you have some popcorn, movie theater butter, and all that good stuff.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, buddy. Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We got more coming up right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration.
And don't forget you have the clips. One of them is your question to Mike Woodson. The other one is Rob Tennessee.
What time is it? 10:07.
It'll be about 10:10-ish when we come back.
So is that our last segment?
Yeah, you'll have this will be our last. Yeah. think it's time to bring us back in.
We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurants.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Thursday. It is game day as Indiana welcomes in Purdue tonight. Number 4 Purdue, the number 1 offense in the country. Can Indiana's defense hold up against Travion Williams and Zach Edey, Jaden Ivey at the guard spot? Who's gonna guard him? I expect Race Thompson on Zach Edey. I think that, and you can't forget about guys like Stefanovic. That would be a great assignment for Jordan Geronimo, I think. People were asking earlier on about different ways who's going to guard who, and of course that's up to Mike Woodson. But just guessing, you're not going to put Trace Jackson on Zach Edey probably, but they've got other guys. It's Jaden Ivey. You can't have Xavier Johnson getting into foul trouble guarding Jaden Ivey, who's very quick off the dribble. But Indiana's got to make Purdue wary of them. You can't just worry about Purdue. You have to do things to force Purdue to worry about you. Force them to worry about your matchups. Who's going to guard Trace Jackson Davis? Can you get Parker Stewart loose? Can Parker Stewart get loose to get some shots? That's a big key. Not only is tonight Indiana will have visitors there, of course. Miro Little, the guard from Finland, scheduled 3 visits in the United States. He's already been to Baylor. He's been to Villanova, and now he's coming to Indiana. I know someone mentioned that he wished he hadn't gone to Baylor first, but I think it's better off that he ends his trip at Indiana because they get to put on the last show. And I assure you, the environment that he's going to see tonight, he did not see at Villanova and he did not see at Baylor. So I think that that's actually going to be pretty good. 5 Left says if you can get Miro, Cups, and Newton in 23, there will be no more point guard issues. Well, you already have Cups and Ja'Kai Newton committed. I wouldn't be surprised if Miro did not commit as well, but we'll see. And don't forget, the biggest one of them all, how about Jalen Hood-Schifino? So, yeah, it's different. I know everyone wants it to be now, but it was left not in the greatest of shape. They weren't able to get the point guard that they needed in the offseason through the portal. And mainly because of a new staff. That's hard to do. You've got a new staff and you need to get anything they can get done this year, I think, is a bonus. Personally. The recruiting is there. And it is not like it was before. I know that Dustin said that he thought the recruiting was there before. No, it was not. They couldn't shoot the daggone ball. They were horrible. The coaching was not great either, but there was no development. Now, Jordan Geronimo was one of those guys that was brought in, but I can't remember if it wasn't Archie that brought him in. It was Kenya Hunter or I can't remember who found him. But it's going to be an exciting environment tonight, and I am looking forward to it. A lot of complaints I saw in the game the other night about the officiating. I don't even bother with that because you can't change it. Jennifer says someone asked what POTFB means, and then asked, doesn't people have Google? And the nation says maybe they don't know how to use Google. Well, I get that all the time. People texting me, asking me, hey, what time's the game tonight? And I'm like thinking, well, you obviously have access to internet. Yeah, I think the same thing, Jennifer. Trust me, a lot. Who all's coming to the game tonight? I think, Jennifer, I think you saw you were. 5 Left says this is a game that Kopp and Stewart have to show their worth. Well, I agree. This is a game that those guys need to do something because you got to do something besides be on the floor. Miller Kopp may draw the assignment for Stefan Stefanovic to start, but I think that will ultimately go to Geronimo. But I think the reason you got Miller, you want Geronimo coming off the bench. You can't have, like we talked about before, you can't put all your 5 best players and then take your 5 best players out. Josh says that Woody expanding IU's recruiting to a more national base is big for your program's profile again. Absolutely. Indiana is a national program. It already is a national program. They haven't had to recruit as much nationally in the past because Indiana produces so much talent in the state. But when you're not getting that top talent, and even when you are getting that top talent, there are always going to be guys that are great someplace else. So go get them. Charlie Miller's on with me every day, every Monday. He's from Miami. I mean, there are a lot of Indiana greats that aren't. Joe Hillman was from California. Bob Knight knew that you had to bring guys in. Keith Smart and Dean Garrett were JUCOs. Sometimes you have to bring people in. So Indiana will get to the point to where they have their choice of the best players in the state of Indiana. They're not at that right now. Purdue is kind of winning that battle. But that'll change. But also, yes, Woody is a national recruit. International. Hell, Miro Little is from Finland. So not that I think international is going to be the way to go in the future. Hey, before I get too far in, we've got some clips that we haven't played. John, yesterday, Coach Woody, we were talking about, I asked him, how do this game is a big game. They've talked that it's not a big game to us because they don't, and I get that. But I promise you, behind those doors, there is no way in hell that it is not being played up as a rivalry. Everybody has to have a rival. You just do. And even though some of these guys aren't from here, you have to buy into that. Trust me, there are plenty of former IU basketball players that are not from Indiana that still carry that rivalry. And you have to love that. No, I have not heard anything about Miro Little reclassifying to 2022, Tim. See, Josh says his Cats found a way to win a tough one on the road last night. Saturday will be fun. Which Cats are those? Are you a Wildcat fan, Josh? Oh, yeah. Is that a Kentucky hat he's wearing on his? I can't see that. Looks like a UK hat. Josh, well, thanks for following us, man. Yep, there you go. Man, we're really expanding. Talk about expanding your reach. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, Rick Pitino sent out a tweet. Anyway, I'll get back to that.
You want me to roll
Let's
that
get
clip?
to these clips.
Okay.
Yeah. Get back to get me all confused there. Yesterday I asked Coach about how do you balance the rivalry aspect with the game aspect. And here's what he had to say.
I've tried to keep it, I mean.
That was quick.
I have never had that happen before where the audio doesn't work. So I have no clue. Let me try this.
Well, let's try that again.
Let's try again.
I've tried to keep it, I mean.
Yep.
All right.
I'll have to work on that, but that's my fault.
Also, Rob Finnessy, do you have him?
We can try that one. I wouldn't be surprised if we have the same problem, but we can see.
All right. Let's see what Rob had to say. A guy that is from West Lafayette and came.
Oh, yeah, definitely does.
I apologize, guys. I'm not sure what the issue is today, but we'll figure that out.
Oh, well. Well, I can go over and tell you what they said. If I can get over to the right page quick enough. But I asked, what are you about? How do you balance that? Because they're talking about this is the next game. This is the next game. And it is the next game, but I know better than that too. It's not just the next game. You have to have rivalries. Let me get down to the bottom of that. Where, where's my question? Oh, geez, I can't even find it on the. There we go. Nope. Trace Jackson Davis also playing tonight, as far as we know. I don't think there was a chance he wasn't going to play. He's going to have to come back and play through some pain a little bit, but I'm sure that they got him ready to go. And he's looking forward to this game. It's probably his last home game against Purdue, if you truth be told. If everything we've heard is true. I asked Coach yesterday, there's been a lot of talk about the rivalry, the aspect of the game with so many guys that aren't from Indiana, and you have to balance that. How do you balance the rivalry aspect with just the game? And his response was, I've tried to keep it. A lot of these guys, they are new. They don't know, and I get it, but I'm not selling that. I'm selling the game. To me, it's the next game. The rivalry is what it is. Protecting home is more important. Again, they just happen to be the next one on the schedule. It's all about the game to me. Everything else takes care of itself. You can come out and commit yourself for 40 minutes and walk out of our building with a W. Now, I'm not buying that. It's just a game stuff. I know better. But right now, he can't build up the rivalry because they're 0-9. So you can't put all your marbles into this and have your team, if they happen to lose this game, have them go down mentally. That's why right now Mike Whitson is spreading it's just another game deal to us. I know that's not the case on the inside, but it is what it is. Tim thinks that Trace Jackson Davis is the most fired up player for today. Yeah, probably. I don't know. Why would Rob Finnessy not be? If I didn't mention, Gabe Cupps is also coming to the game tonight. The Hoosiers spoke with him, confirmed that. He will also be there watching this IU Purdue game tonight, seeing this environment. Now, he's already committed. So, but I think just seeing that environment just continues to sell these guys and help them sell others. These are the kinds of recruits that Indiana and environments that Indiana has to come in. This is what they have to sell. and get back to where they were. I mean, I'd love to see your all's true thoughts on tonight. Here's a question from Ava. Who do I think will pull out the win tonight? Personally, I think Purdue will. I mean, if I was betting, I can't bet that Indiana's going to win this game. Common sense does not tell me Indiana's going to win this game. Does not mean Indiana can't win the game. I mean, but I'm not looking at it from the standpoint you guys are. Indiana has not shown me yet that they can play this kind of game for 40 minutes and win. They have the ability to, they have the capability to. I truly believe that. Let's see if they haven't had the ability to upset people much in the past. Yeah, they got a couple of wins over Michigan State, which still shocks me to no end. But it's not that they can't win this game. Purdue is not unbeaten or unbeatable. But somebody has to have an incredible game besides Trace Jackson Davis. You know, Rutgers beat them because Ron Harper Jr. just went off. But he can do a lot of things. He can shoot from outside and play inside. Indiana's going to have a complete game tonight if they have a chance to win the game. I think Purdue wins the game, but doesn't mean that Indiana can't. I just haven't seen them put that game together yet. But the season continues. It's got to go. They can get there. Ava, thank you for following still. Appreciate you. Bill says he thinks that Trey Galloway would be the most fired up. You know, I don't know that fired up is the right word. While fired up is great, all that stuff goes away once the ball's tipped because you get into what you're doing and focusing on what you're doing. The ability to maintain a higher level of intensity throughout a game, that's different. And that is something that's going to be needed. Smart intensity, not smart basketball, not turn the damn ball over. Indiana just simply cannot turn the ball over tonight. You cannot give Purdue multiple additional opportunities to score. They already have the damn number one offense in the country. So you can't help them out at all. And I think that they can. Zach Edey is gigantic. He's not a great basketball player. He's just gigantic. He's not the greatest athlete in the world. He's just gigantic. So if they have a plan for him, let's see. Hopefully it works. It's going to be a fun night tonight, man. After the game, how about this? A double dip. Ted Kitchell and Dean Garrett, both national champions. Looking forward to that. Game time, 7 o'clock at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. We'll be on afterwards for after the game. And looking forward to it. It's going to be, and suit up. Can't wait to see the students suiting up tonight. I think it's going to be great. I think it's hilarious. Dustin didn't like it, but I think it's going to be funny. I love to see student sections doing stuff like this. It gets them much more involved. In a concerted way. I would like to see Indiana's student section get back to being one of the best student sections in the country without being outside of the lines as much. We've seen that happen. So that's going to wrap it up for us today, man. It's been another fun one. Can't wait till tonight. Looking forward to joining you guys joining us. We will be there after the game. So looking forward to that. Thanks a lot, of course, to Dustin Schutte, Matt Taylor, Cal Neddenriep, Chris Denari, John, the producer, but most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Until tonight, I am Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.